6 of Griddyiron Gang, one of our last 2 episodes before the start of the regular season. What we have for you today is a Thursday night football prediction. The Los Angeles Rams, defending champs, will take on the number 1 contending and a lot of people's favorites for the Super Bowl champ this year, Buffalo Bills. Rams will get their ring ceremony and hopefully pick up where they left off last season. After that, I want to get your thoughts on one team out of each conference outside of the Rams and Bills that you feel confident in going to the Super Bowl. So I don't know what your picks are going to be, but I think I have a good idea. We're going to finish off with some award predictions. We gave you our quarterback rankings. We gave you record predictions. Now we're going to give you MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, everything like that. And for this segment, we want you guys for sure to go down in the comments and give us some of your thoughts of your record predictions, your season awards, everything like that. We want to see where you guys' head is at too. Just finish off. You're going to sell me on the Vikings.
All right.
Some people would say that's an impossible task, but where I want to start, obviously it's been a long and crazy, wild offseason. A lot of additions, Russell Wilson went to the Broncos, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson to the Chargers, Devontae Adams to the Raiders, along with Chandler Jones. So I want to get your thoughts on who you think, one player and one coach out of each conference, who will have the biggest impact, and we'll start with the AFC.
AFC, okay. What comes to mind right away is for Coach Josh McDaniels out in Las Vegas. I think he's gonna have a good. He's got some good additions with him that came there, but I think obviously he kind of fumbled the ball his first time being a head coach out in Denver when they had Tim Tebow, obviously. But I think going back to the Patriots and being the offensive coordinator out there for all these years leading up to this point. It's finally gotten him ready to take charge and take lead of a team on his own. Doesn't hurt when you got Derek Carr as your quarterback and Devontae coming over there teaming up with him again. Chandler Jones on the defense. They had a lot of good offseason additions. I just think that what he's gonna bring to them in his play calling with that. You got Waller out there as well, Hunter Renfrow. That's a dynamic offense. So if their defense can, hold up their end of the bargain during games, I think that they're going to be one of the top AFC teams to, look out for. Player-wise, I look at Russell Wilson out in Denver. I think, they haven't had their quarterback position has been a mess ever since Peyton Manning left. I think with him going there, you had a solid squad all around besides the quarterback position. So you shore that up, you get him signed to an extension that's, a big deal. I think everyone's excited out there. I think the players are looking forward to the season. I think everyone's looking forward to leveling up their play even further. And I think that he's going to just bring a whole different vibe to that team, leadership style. That AFC West is loaded, but they're a team also to look out for. That's for the AFC side of things, at least for me.
For sure. AFC side, as far as players, Russell Wilson is an easy choice. Quarterback, most important position on the field. He's had success in Seattle, obviously a Super Bowl champion. He's respected by the players around the league, the coaches around the league. He's definitely a guy who's going to have a big impact. Coaching-wise, I try not to stay in that division. We've talked about it enough.
Yeah,
so
it's hard.
I went with Dougie P. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, obviously in Philadelphia a few years back, and now he's the head coach in Jacksonville. If Trevor Lawrence is everything that he's been talked up to be and everything that we believe he can be, I think Doug Peterson is one of the few coaches that has a great chance of getting that out of him.
Yeah.
And then you surround him with okay weapons, maybe not the best, but you have Etienne coming back, and you spend some money this offseason to try and see what he has and if you can unleash that potential out there in Jacksonville. So for me, that's the coach I think will have the biggest impact AFC-wise. NFC-wise, I'll let you go ahead and tackle that first.
Well, coach, let's just jump off the bat, and I'm going to go with my guy KOC out in Minnesota here.
I agree.
I think he's bringing a whole different vibe. It's more. I'm not going to just. I don't want to say laid back, but it does got it it's got that kind of feel to it where he's letting the players be themselves, enjoy coming to work every day. He's obviously talking about when we got to go to work, we got to go to work. and make it count. I think during the training camp, there's like a max of 18 padded practices you can have, and he only chose to have 11 of those. So I think his goal is, using sports science and keeping things fresh and like trying to make sure they're not getting too many injuries or dinged up. It's a long season, so he's wanting to keep every guy fresh, which I think is huge, especially with, I know we got some older vets on the team, but we also got a lot of younger guys now. But I just think the whole vibe he's bringing, he's offensive coach, offensive minded, which we've, since 2014, we've been completely defensive minded. I think we've had a new offensive coordinator like pretty much every year that Zimmer was here. So I think having that continuity, starting out with O'Connell, with Cousins is going to feel more, comfortable leading the team his way. So yeah, that's my pick. I don't want to dive into it too much because obviously I got to sell you on the Vikings towards the end here, but I would say coach-wise, Kevin O'Connell for sure. Now player-wise, this was kind of harder for me, but I look at the NFC East and I look at the Eagles, and I think A.J. Brown out there, they already had a talented team, but and then you had Devontae Smith as a rookie last year. You had Jalen Reagor, who wasn't panning out, obviously traded to Minnesota this last week. But A.J. Brown brings a whole different dynamic. He's one of the best receivers in the game. This is that kind of thing where it's like, hey, okay, Jalen, now you got to show us, and this is your time to really prove to us that you were that guy to lead us on a week-to-week basis. Which I do have confidence in Jalen Hurts to do that. I mean, he's that blue-collar work ethic type of guy. Puts in a lot of work. I just think, hey, A.J. Brown, new scenery for him. You got Goddard at tight end. You got Devontae Smith on the other side. It's also a time for Miles Sanders to step up, though. But I think A.J. Brown brings a whole different vibe to that team with, being able to stretch the field, make plays, yards after the catch. And obviously, the defense is pretty loaded, too. So I just think that he was, I don't remember the trade they gave up for him, but I know he's better than drafting someone to try and come in and help out right away. So I think that he puts them into that playoff picture right away.
Just off that trade alone, you're not going to equal up to that kind of productivity draft-wise.
Yeah.
You win the trade. Just
get
exactly. The player you got. I'm not going to waste everybody's time. I have the same two picks. You pretty much said everything I could say. Kevin O'Connell, I do like that he has an air raid offense that he's bringing over, switching over from a run-first offense. And then given, I believe Justin Jefferson's better than Cooper. Your 2 and 3 were better than their 2 and 3. I do like Higbee, but Irv Smith has the potential to be better than that. He's definitely a better athlete. More
Alabama.
dynamic. Yes, sir. We don't give up on those guys. And then obviously Dalvin Cook is any of your running backs. Although I like Cam Akers, you have a very good running back room, probably a top 3 running back room in the league.
Well, like I said, I'll save it, so I'll talk about it at the end. But
for sure,
you're hitting on a lot of points I like.
And then also switching from whatever scheme you ran to a 3-4, I think that's going to be a big difference as well. And then filling those roles, linebacker-wise, Darius Smith, taking him from Green Bay, I think that's going to be a big move as well. A.J. Brown, you said everything I could have said. He's an arguable top 10 receiver. It's really on Jalen Hurts. They put the pieces around him to be successful, but this is definitely going to be one of the biggest impact players, I feel. If you want to look at Hurts's development over his first 2 years, he had to split time with Carson his rookie year. Second year, he gets about 3,000 yards, only 16 touchdowns at passing, but he is a very good dual threat quarterback. We also have to take into account his weapons rookie year. His number 1 receiver was a converted quarterback in Houston, Greg Ward. Right. And then you did have Goddard, but you didn't have much outside of that. Last year, you get him Devontae Smith, and you see he has a lot to show. He has a lot of potential there. He's coachable. He works hard. And then adding A.J. Brown to that, I think is going to unleash something sort of like a Diggs-Allen connection, if you will.
I'd agree. The only question mark I have about the Eagles really is I'm not really sold on that head coach, Nick Sirianni, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I just think, granted, I don't know, they were what they were last year, but it's not like he came in and made so many great coaching decisions that put him in that conversation of, hey, even with this talent we have already here that he's taken over, he's making, the play calling was definitely questionable.
It can be.
So
he figured it out towards the end of the year.
He did, and I think when they made that Ertz trade to Arizona, I think that was really what they had to do, because you can't have a guy like Goddard and Ertz sharing time, because it holds your offense back. One of them is there and has to flourish, because both are two solid tight ends. You obviously saw when Ertz went to Arizona, his production was great, but Goddard excelled. It was tenfold. Like, he just excelled when Ertz left. And we all saw that. I saw that before Ertz even left there. I saw Goddard as a, top 10 tight end in the league, where he can make game-changing plays. Obviously, he's not a big speedy guy, but he's smart with finding the areas of the field he needs to. And when you're a run-heavy team, it's nice to have that kind of production at tight end, to know, like, hey, we got a rookie at wide receiver, Devontae Smith. Jalen Reagor is not the answer. So the wide receiver room was kind of thin last year, but Goddard kind of stepped up and filled that void. And I think that's why I think A.J. Brown comes in, and it's a whole different dimension. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, they have all the potential. I think they're definitely the favorites in the NFC East for sure.
NFC East is hands down. Dallas doesn't do anything to scare me. Washington and New York never have. Switching over, let's get to this Thursday Night Football prediction. We have the Los Angeles Rams trying to defend their title, facing the Buffalo Bills. Last year, Los Angeles went on a run. They finished 7th in points offensively, 9th in yards, 15th in points defensively, 17th in yards. Now, we know they lost some big players. Odell Beckham hasn't returned. They lost Von Miller, Allen Robinson. So, didn't do a lot to replace those guys outside of Robert Woods and Bobby Wagner. So we know this team is top heavy. We know that this team is star loaded. We know that Von Miller went to Buffalo. He was first in defense and yards and points last year, and top 5 in both yards and points offensively. So if you're going to look at this game, the Rams are the defending champs, but I think Buffalo is really a more complete team, a more deeper team. Defensively, they're probably better, although they don't have a Jalen Ramsey. Tre'Davious White is going to be out to start this game. They did get a good draft pick in Kyer Elam, though. I do like him.
I do like him too.
He's a Gator. I have to admit it. He's a good player. They obviously have Poyer back there. He's a good 1-2 punch back there with the other safety, Micah Hyde. So their defense is solid in the back end. Front 7 obviously is really good. Quarterback, a lot of people are picking him to be MVP of this team. A lot of people are picking them to be the overall 1 seed. I don't know. Donald's the best player in the league. Cooper Kupp's a top 10 player. Jalen Ramsey's a top 10 player. I don't know if the Bills have any of those unless Josh Allen's a top 10 player. But this is one of those games where we're going to see if he can prove that he is. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, is I think people are expecting him to take just another step this year in being. I think it's not even his level of play. I just think it's his leadership ability, leading the squad, to getting over the hump, getting to the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously we saw that game last year against the Chiefs. That was the divisional round. I mean, in my eyes, they probably should have won. I mean, you got a little bit more juice on Kansas City's side at the end of the game. Patrick Mahomes, that's one thing he has over Josh Allen, I think, is being able to play backyard football and play off script. Josh Allen, I mean, he's shown the ability that he's able to take off and run the ball. But I think when you add in, you already got Diggs, but you also, I don't know if he got cut or not, but they did bring in Jamison Crowder, which is, he's always been a solid little slot receiver, and not having Cole Beasley. But I think you look at a guy like Gabriel Davis, I think he's going to take off this year as well. I think he complements Diggs very well. I think that's going to be like a 1A, 1B situation. But then you also have, who's the other guy they got, the receiver, Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah, linebacker.
He's solid. So
I think they cut O.J. Howard. Is that the team?
They did.
Okay.
O.J. Howard, I think, went to the Texans.
Okay.
I think first report I saw, he was almost going to signed with the Bengals, which would have been a sneaky little signing.
I was hearing that too.
But he ultimately went to the Texans. So I think what they were saying about OJ is like they didn't see the explosiveness. He was kind of slower on the slower side, and which I mean, it's kind of a downer because I've always thought he's got great size, and I mean he showed athleticism out in Tampa.
Yep,
he was just on the short end of the stick with the depth chart. So I mean. With the Bills, though, I mean the question mark comes into play with the running back room. You got a lot of like solid playmakers back there, but you're not a run team, and you don't got one guy who can be a 3-down workhorse. So there's gonna be a lot of rotation back there. I think ultimately you're gonna have Singletary come out of the backfield, first, second downs, and then I think you're gonna see probably James Cook overtake that pass down role.
This team, over the past few seasons, hasn't ran the ball at all. Obviously, we know Brian Daboll has now moved on, and with the Giants as the head coach, do you think that changes this year?
It could, but I think when you already got, I don't know who their new OC is, but I think you kind of stick to the script of what's been going on. I mean, I wouldn't assume that they brought in someone from outside the organization to fill that role. I could be wrong, but I think you kind of stick to what you've been doing. It might change a little bit because obviously coaches have a different way of calling plays in different situations, but I don't think it's going to hurt too much. I think they're going to come out swinging and showing, especially the first game of the season being against the Rams, they're going to want to show the world like, hey, we're here. Yeah.
Do you have a score prediction for this game?
I honestly think it's going to, man, when I look at,
or a bold prediction at all? Like I think the offensive line along the Rams side is going to take a hit losing Whitworth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Von Miller being over there, but like I just played with y'all.
Yeah,
he might go for 2 sacks.
I think I don't have a bold prediction, my prediction is I think it's going to be more of a back and forth game for sure. But I do think the Bills have more firepower in a sense, especially when you look at like the Rams. They don't have OBJ right now. They lost Robert Woods, but they do have Allen Robinson, so that's going to be another, is he going to rebound and like revitalize his career, kind of? How is Matt Stafford's elbow going to hold up? Is it more serious than what everyone's making it out to be? Obviously, you're going to have Jalen Ramsey matched up with Diggs, so that's going to be
that's probably
showtime.
But then on the other side, Cooper Kupp's going to be doubled with probably Elam and the safety, so that's probably going to be neutralized. So.
I don't know. I think, if I had to predict, I'm going to go 28-24 Bills.
Who's the big player of the game? Gabe Davis, probably?
I want to pick, and that's an easy pick, obviously, because he's coming off that 4-touchdown game against Kansas City or whatever, but they got to lean on him more, especially if you getting games like this where you got a shutdown corner covering Diggs. Obviously, Diggs has shown he can make plays on Ramsey, but I kind of want to lean towards Ramsey in a sense because he's proven over and over again, week to week, like he's not scared. He's one of the best smack talkers in the league. He gets in your face. He's going to shut you down. Mm-hmm. He might give up 1 or 2 plays, obviously, but
it happens.
Yeah, it happens. I just think, the Bills are going to come out. It's obviously not going to be a blowout by any sense, but that's why I picked 28-24. I think they, do a little bit more to pull out of that game, and I think at the end of the day, it's still gonna they both. That's the fun about this game is they both have offenses who can go against a good defense and still put up points. Yeah, and so it's gonna come down to these defenses coming out and who's better, which is
a hell of a battle.
And I think that Von Miller signing is it's huge. I think that's almost like bringing in a missing piece to bolster that squad as a whole because he's a great leader, especially on the defensive side. He's going to want to get after it and get to Matt Stafford, so it's going to be a fun game. I mean, we're 3 days away now. It's like I said, Thursday at work is going to be a hard day to focus.
I know how you feel about Buffalo, and you're giving the Rams quite a bit of respect in a close game, as you should. They're the defending champs. Is there another team on the NFC that you have confidence in?
Well, the homer in me wants to be Vikings, but I'm not going to do that. I just think it's hard to go against Tampa Bay. Like, even though there's some question marks out there, they're a little on the older side, but it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. If I had to put money down confidently, like going to Vegas and wanting to bet on something, it'd just be like, hey, to get to the Super Bowl, I'll pick the Bucs. Like, especially, I mean, you look at how many weapons they got over there, even age considered. If you're going to get a healthy Godwin back within, say the first 2-3 weeks, and he's full go by that time, that's like 14 weeks left of domination.
Yeah, it is.
Like
Mike Evans.
And then you got Julio to come in and make some plays. Russell Gage. You got...
We do this every episode.
Right, but you got Cameron Brate and Rudolph who are sharing kind of that co-starter role at tight end. I mean, I think Winfield Jr. is going to take another step this year and solidify himself as one of the top safeties in the league.
Yeah, Carlton Davis, Shaq Barrett.
It's people, and the thing is, the scary thing is people are low-key sleeping on the Bucs. They're seeing the Rams, they're seeing the Bills, they're seeing, the Chiefs, but it's Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's still got it in him at 45 years old. And I like Todd Bowles as a coach. I don't know how much different the style is going to be with him compared to Arians, but I don't think he's going to change much on the offensive side because you pretty much got an offensive coordinator / head coach in Tom Brady leading the team, playing out there. So all he's got to worry about is taking care of the defense and throwing the challenge flag.
I know.
So
I think we might be removed from the days where you can get to the Super Bowl with a good defense, good offensive line, good skill position, and an average quarterback. So I'm kind of going against my feelings taking this team, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles are a team I have confidence in.
Yeah.
Just to start with the addition of A.J. Brown, like we talked about earlier. Such a unique weapon room to have Devontae Smith, who's talented, obviously 4.2, 4.3 speed, but was a Heisman winner as well.
Right, yeah.
To couple that with a top 10 receiver, it's a very unique combination. Goddard is a very good tight end, top 10 for sure. Miles Sanders is a good running back. I mean, they have a good running back room, good offensive line. You couple that with, James Bradbury, paired him with Darius Slay in the defensive backfield, and then just trading for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You obviously did great draft night, winning the draft with A.J. Brown, but as far as the players you took, N'Kobe Dean, Jordan Davis, you fared just as well as anybody that night. I know we have questions about the quarterback and the coach. As far as the organization goes, I mean, they just keep staying right where they need to be, and then when they have a chance to be one of the top teams, I think they end up being one of those top teams year in and year out. For me, Tampa, it's hard to bet against Tom. We've been doing this since we were in elementary school, but this might be the year I bet against Tom, and I actually feel comfortable doing it. Philly, Minnesota, I mean, there's a lot of good teams in this NFC, and
yeah, for sure.
You factor in some of the stuff you're saying about Tom, I think this is the year to count him out.
And it might be because, I think people are kind of even overlooking the fact that I do think there's trouble in paradise with him and his wife because she didn't want him to play. Like I do think that there is something going on there. I mean, look at what was he a week and a half or something from training camp?
Yeah.
And downplayed it, which is obviously what he's going to do, but when you're not having a happy home life, it kind of affects more than just, life at home. It affects your work life. Like, not saying it's going to take away from his GOAT status by any means, and he's not going to put up numbers, but kind of, I wouldn't overlook, like, I mean, he's 45. Like, your kids and wife want to spend time with you, You usually retire when you're like 35, around there.
Yeah.
So an extra 10 years in the league, that's a long time. Your kids growing up, your wife's,
for sure,
getting older, and they just want to spend time with you. So that's another thing I kind of have in the back of my head. I'm not saying it's a big deal, but I think, there's a little bit more to it than what everyone's, not really saying behind, but it's just hard for me to bet against them. Like I said, I like your Eagles pick. I do think that they're one of those sleeper teams to watch out for to get maybe to the Super Bowl if they get on a hot streak. But yeah, I just can't bet against Tom Brady. I'm not there yet in my, NFL fandom of
It's betting against what's around him, not him himself. I mean,
yeah.
You have to factor in who they're going to be playing against this season. I mean, Tampa's schedule is very easy, in my opinion, though. So
it is, and I think
it's tough to go against that.
Yeah.
They can speak out. They're 12-5 and win the NFC, and now they're very good doing it. But
and now I would obviously still, just like last season, they get beat by the Rams in the playoffs. I can see that same scenario playing out again. So
some people will say that game was close. Some people will say, well, the Rams turned it over 4 times.
Yeah.
Depending on who you're a fan of. You have a team out the AFC outside of the Bills you feel comfortable in?
It's so loaded on the AFC side. I mean, that I'm comfortable in. I can't really, I just think the Bills are the first tier. I mean, they're number 1 tier. I don't believe, the Chiefs are going to be in every game they play, obviously, but I just don't. I think Tyreek is a lot bigger than what they're making it out to be, losing a guy like him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what those rookies can do, because they did draft some guys who are making some noise in training camp, preseason. I kind of want to go with the Chargers. I think that what they've done this offseason is load up that defense even more. I mean, Justin Herbert's going to take another step, I believe. You got Mike Williams, who's arguably maybe overtaking Keenan Allen as number 1, but I wouldn't go that far just yet, because I think Keenan's still got a lot left in the tank. But when you got 2 guys like that with great size and speed, Allen's not a big speed guy, but they both get open. They're both big bodies, catching the red zone. I think they brought in, Gerald Everett for tight end.
Okay.
So that's another solid tight end that they brought in. Obviously, you got Austin Eckler, who's just a machine back there catching passes out of the backfield. So I think the depth in the running back room is kind of in question, but and they rebuilt that offensive line to really protect Herbert, which you needed, because you can't. It's just like in Cincinnati, you can't get a guy like Burrow or Herbert or Allen killed back there. I mean, especially guys who have big arms and need to stay in that pocket to get it downfield. But I think Herbert's a guy that is also, a dark horse for MVP this year. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers for sure. I think they can surprise people and make it to the Super Bowl for sure.
Okay, that's not a bad pick at all. I'll keep it in the division. Go with the Chiefs. I think we mentioned it last time. A lot of people are underestimating Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I think this is the best offensive line, coach, quarterback combination since Tom was in his prime in New England, maybe.
Okay.
So he didn't have the weapons.
He didn't.
But he did have a better defense. And he does obviously have a better coach. But Andy Reid has done this in different locations throughout his whole career. This is a team I do believe in. I think Juju is going to have a rejuvenation year.
I do think that too. I always forget about him. Sorry for cutting you
I don't
off,
really like him. No, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I always, when I think of the Chiefs, I forget about Juju, because I'm so used to Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I'm so used to.
And he was forgetful out there too.
I'm so used to thinking about Tyreek in Kansas City, so I'm still getting used to thinking about the Chiefs' offense and being like, who do they got out there now that Tyreek's gone? And I always forget Juju. Mm-hmm. And I think McCole Hardman's gonna have a good year. Mm-hmm. Interesting to see how that running back room plays out, because I'm not sold on Clyde Edwards-Helaire
or Ronald Jones.
No, but I do think they for a 7th round draft pick, that Isaiah Pacheco, whatever his name is, I think he's could be solid. But people are overlooking Jerick McKinnon. I've always liked Jerick McKinnon.
He doesn't get utilized enough.
He's very solid back there. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, he's kind of got injury history that's worrisome, but if he stays healthy, look what he did in the playoffs. I mean, he was balling out against every team they played. He was making plays. And I just don't think Edwards-Helaire is that back that you can trust on every week. He's shown that he can't really break tackles that well. He's kind of just like a bowling ball out there who can't knock down pins. He needs the what do you call it? That gutter help.
Bumpers.
Bumpers, yeah. He needs the bumpers out there. But now that you mention it, I do forgot about Juju. I am definitely overlooking the Chiefs in my own mind. But
Yeah, back to the Juju. I mean, it's hard to judge a guy when Ben Roethlisberger's your quarterback for the past 2 years. When Ben Roethlisberger was average to okay, Juju had a pretty good year. So I think we have to take that into consideration. That's quite an upgrade going from Ben to Patrick Mahomes. You obviously have guys that you drafted, guys that you brought in that are sure to make an impact on this team. Kelsey's going to garner most of the attention anyway. So if you guys can go win your one-on-ones, we shouldn't have a problem being productive in this offense. And really outside of the Bills, who I think are just about the most complete team in the league, if not the top 3. Cincy also in that conversation. Yeah, the Chargers are very talented, but they didn't make the playoffs last year. The coach hasn't been there, and we still have a lot to see from them. Denver, new coach, new quarterback. I feel just as almost as confident as Denver as I do in the Chargers, just because they have a quarterback in place with the foundation that was already there in Denver. Raiders, same thing. New coach, new quarterback. Even though Josh McDaniels is one of the best play calling coaches in the league, I think the offense will be great. Offensive line is bad, and the defense is going to have to hold up against some of these high-powered offenses in the AFC. So, and then even Baltimore. I mean, we played the Chiefs very well. We beat them last year, but we have a lot of question marks, especially on the offensive side. So, outside of those 2 teams I mentioned, Cincy and Buffalo, the Chiefs should be right there at the end of the year. I don't think a lot of teams are really going to be able to contend.
I think it's going to be that at least top 5 in the AFC are going to be kind of jumbled together record-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to just be fighting it out for those, top 3, 4 seeds at the end of the year. But it's been a crazy offseason with how many moving parts there have been with, players going to different teams. And the AFC has just kind of been like a powerhouse this offseason. So it's going to be fun to watch. That's kind of what I have for... When I say Chargers, though, for my, team in the AFC, like, you bring up good points with that division. I think Raiders are a sleeper team. I think, you got the Broncos. I mean, it's interesting, too, when you get new players and new coaches on a team and you're kind of expected to be one of the top teams now in the conference.
It's a lot of expectations.
It is. And, can you live up to that? That's a lot of pressure for new people to jump into new scenery and kind of make it play out the way people are picking you to end the season, record-wise or AFC Championship, NFC Championship, Super Bowl, whatever it may be. But there's a lot of... I think this is going to be one of the most fun seasons we've had in a while because of... I think it's almost... I'm not going to say it's a complete even playing field across the board, but there's a lot of teams that can shock people. And so it's going to be interesting to come back at the end of the season and see, hey, compare our record predictions. How did we,
We might have done that a little too early.
Did we overlook some teams, which I think we did?
Yeah, I did for sure.
I think, people are definitely, just like when you watch Hard Knocks and you think about the Lions this year, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Their record might show that they're not there yet, but they're going to be a tough team to bring down on a weekly basis. That's a team that can make or break you getting into the playoffs. And I think that's what their identity is going to be, is they're going to walk into a street fight. They don't care who you are, what your expectations are of yourselves. They're just going to want to beat you to the ground.
Yep.
And they might be a team, that knocks a couple teams out of that playoff race or knocks them down a couple seeds and kind of pisses their season away that way. Not talking about the Lions, but how they play those teams. And I don't know, when I watch Hard Knocks and I see just the program that Dan Campbell's instilling in that team, that's another team that, hey, they could potentially make the playoffs this year.
In the week NFC, they can be right on the bubble till about week 15, 16.
They are low-key a team that I'm nervous to face. I think we play them end of September first time. The way our schedule is set up, you can't overlook anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be locked in every week. And I know that's how it is in the NFL every week, but there are times that you know you're better than the team, you can get away with kind of slacking. But I don't think that's the case for at least the Vikings this year. You got a schedule that is maybe a little easier than it has been in the past, but it's still, you're playing a lot of these sneaky teams where you cannot overlook anybody. So
you have to take advantage of that for sure. Anything else you want to touch on this topic before we get to the awards? I do want to say.
No, I wanted to ask though, do you have a score prediction for the Bills-Rams game?
Oh man. I would say about 27-24. So pretty similar to your score.
Pretty even, yeah, or pretty the same, I mean. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to this finally getting, we had college this past week. Well, it's technically been 2 weeks now, but where we had like a busy Thursday through Saturday with college games.
Well, 31-27.
I mean, hey, it's football's back. It's exciting time, man. It's almost like, it's like that Christmas morning, you're waking up and, ripping open gifts and seeing what you got. It's just that time of the year where it's exciting. You get Thursday through Monday, it's all football. All day long.
I know I spent 10 hours Saturday watching football and I didn't watch game day, so definitely appreciative of the girlfriends who can sit by for 20 weeks and withstand this fucking whatever you want to call it they're about to go through. But weekends are ours now. I do want to say to further back up my Eagles point, if Hurts isn't the guy, I do have confidence regarding Minshew. I feel like he's better than Nick Foles. So if they have the same kind of system in place, same kind of, thought process behind that, if Hurts can't get it done, similar to how Wentz got hurt, I think Minshew is very talented. He's very capable. If he was a starter in our quarterback rankings, I would put him right around 25 to 27 or so.
Definitely.
But back to my point earlier, that average quarterback isn't going to be able to get the job done more times than not. But as we've seen with this 49ers, Garoppolo has been a couple plays away from winning the Super Bowl. So
right.
It's kind of a hard argument to back up when I contradict myself, but I do think Minshew has the talent to hold this team down for 5 games or so if Hurts comes into an injury or something like that. So, And then Andy Reid, it would be ironic that the 2 teams I picked, Chiefs and Philly, make to the Super Bowl, given that that's where he had most of his success before, but I think he's one of those guys that people really underestimate as far as an offensive mind and the kind of players he's had throughout his career. You know what I'm saying? Brian Westbrook, T.O., Havon, all those guys in Philly who we had to fucking make Super Bowl contenders every year. And he was getting to the game quite often. So I just think people underestimate that a lot. Now, to get to the season awards, this isn't an award, but do you have a breakout player this year?
A breakout player.
And why you think I can give you mine. We touched on him earlier. Juju.
Oh, man.
He only played 5 games last year, so he could be a comeback player candidate as well. But he did have a down year before the year he got injured, and I think if you couple him with Patrick Mahomes, what's the worst that can happen?
Right. You know what? I think breakout player, I'm going to have to go with Javonte Williams in Denver. I think that, I know it's kind of a situation where you got to watch out for because they do still got Melvin Gordon out there. So they're going to be obviously splitting time. But I think as the season goes on, it's going to be hard for them to not get the ball in his hands. He showed last year that he's very explosive. He bounces off tackles very well. And I think coupled with the fact that you do have Russell Wilson there slinging the rock and getting it to the playmakers, Javonte can also be a threat in the passing game as well. I think Melvin's probably still considered their goal line back, but Javonte, he's a guy who's definitely on my radar as a potential breakout as a, I won't say top 5 back, but definitely top 10.
I agree with that though to an extent. Russell Wilson is obviously going to be the quarterback over there. Word is he wanted to get out of Seattle because they want to let Russ cook. You know what I'm saying? So part of me feels like the offense seems to be a little more pass heavy. Javonte Williams is definitely capable of being a top 10 back though. Given the opportunity, given that Melvin Gordon's a veteran up there in age a little bit, isn't the number 1 back anymore, he'll definitely get the most opportunity out there. Yeah, man, I think Russ garners a lot of attention from the defense, so you could argue him in the passing game or him in the run game could be more beneficial. So You know, I'm a little torn between that pick. He's definitely a good player, but I just don't know how the offense is going to look with a new coach and new quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you have a comeback player of the year prediction?
I think, well, for me, I think a lot of people are picking this guy, and Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
I think the past couple of seasons, he's gone down for the season with injuries. Only played, 6 to maybe, almost half a season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he sheds that injury bug this year. I think you're going to have Baker Mayfield back there taking some pressure off of him. And I think we're going to see an electric Christian McCaffrey again. I think that he's just going to tear it up this year, be the guy that everyone expects him to be. And, you could even argue, obviously, there's a couple guys out there that you could argue that should have that title, but he's an easy pick for comeback player of the year because I got a couple guys who I don't think will lose, like, offensive player of the year, MVP to Christian McCaffrey, so I give that title to him. I can't tell you what's prediction like stat wise he's gonna have, but I do think he's gonna allow DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Baker Mayfield to do what they do and not be such a cluster like they were last year because they were bad on offense last year.
Mm-hmm.
And if their O line can hold up a little bit and make some key blocks each week, it's gonna take even more pressure off McCaffrey because their O line is kind of suspect right now. They do got the first round draft pick and Icky, yep. So I think, like I said, that's my pick for comeback player of the year. But I think a lot of it has to do with Baker coming over and taking over at quarterback. I think he's gonna be able to get him the ball in the passing game. Obviously, take some pressure off him in the running game with his passing ability to those two guys on the outside. So. Yeah, people are overlooking, Baker Mayfield. I'm not a big fan of him, obviously. I always say that, but he's a guy who he's going to come out. That first week against the Browns, he said he's going to fuck them up. So we'll see.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I'm going to stick with your running back position and go with Saquon. I know we mentioned earlier, Dayball coming over there from Buffalo, didn't run the ball a lot. This is a different situation. Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen. The receivers are not as, I want to say good or talented, but they're just not there as often, whether it be off the field issues or durability issues. Saquon's a guy you went and took, in the top 5, top 10. So you got to be able to utilize this guy. You want to give him the ball in the run game, the pass game, in space. You see him, whatever, he'll have 20 carries for 60 yards, but then he'll have 1 for 60 yards too. So yeah, he has big playability. And the reason he's getting those 20 for 60 is because there's 8-9 in the box and your quarterback can't get the job done. But I think with this offense, it's going to open up a little bit. Dayball will bring another dimension to it. Saquon's back. He wants to prove people I am the best back in the league, like a lot of people thought I was before. I hear all this C-Mac talk, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, whatever. Nah, I'm Saquon. Y'all remember their highlights are like my highlights, man.
He's a guy I thought about picking as well, but I just think, when you only run the ball or can only get yards when you run the ball, defenses know what you're gonna do. He's gonna obviously I think he's gonna put up great numbers this year, but I'm not sold with obviously Daniel Jones. I don't really like Kenny Galladay. We don't know what Kadarius Toney's gonna bring to the table this year. Sterling Shepard's always injured.
So I'm getting the rock.
So you better make plays. That's going to wear your body down again to possibly get hurt again. So we'll see how that works out.
Part of the game, baby.
It is part of the game. And I know he's coming into this year pissed off because he's hearing all the doubters and naysayers. But I got to see it. That's the difference between him and McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey shows on a week-to-week basis that, and obviously he's been on a better team, but McCaffrey is a do-it-all. I'm making, taking it to the house 50 yards, 60 yards, whether it's pass or catch, or pass or run. So, and Daniel Jones, he doesn't get the ball to his playmakers like he should. He's tripping over himself on a touchdown run. You got Mr. Goofball back there. So, I mean, obviously Saquon is the star of the show in that offense. He has been. It's just durability has been a question, obviously. And I think Saquon is going to put up great numbers this year because he's got that dog mentality in him. It's just when you think Giants, and I do like Daboll as the coach, don't get me wrong.
Offensive line is very good.
They've rebuilt that offensive line for sure.
If Daniel Jones can't get it done, Tyrod Taylor is more than capable of starting in this league. So as long as Saquon stays healthy, I feel confident in this pick.
I feel more confident in that offense as a whole if they just come right out and start Tyrod Taylor.
It might be 7 wins.
I do. I just don't see it in Daniel Jones. If I'm a fan of that team, man, get him off my squad.
It has to be tough to be a New York fan.
Both ways, both sides.
Just about as bad as it is to be a Vikings fan. But they got double to hurt. 2 teams out there in every league.
Yeah, I know.
Coach of the year, I'll make mine quick. Andy Reid, we talked about him twice, maybe 3 times earlier. I mean, done deal. I had this team going 14-3, same as Buffalo. So if that's going to be the case, Andy Reid's going to be a big part of it offensively and defensively. So
I got, obviously I'm going Sean McDermott. What I've been saying about the Bills, that's who it's going to come down to. If my prediction is right about them going to the Super Bowl, I think that he wins Coach of the Year. Obviously, if you go to the Super Bowl and win it, that coach is more than likely on the cusp of getting that award.
Mm.
But I think regardless, if they can get to that Super Bowl, he gets that award.
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Man. Well, it's been a toss-up for me, but I'm going to lean to my Florida Gator. It's going to be a fairly bad team this year still. They want to run the ball, and they just cut Marlon Mack and brought him back to the practice squad.
Marlon Mack is still around?
I'm going with, and they got Rex Burkhead to be their passing down back, but the guy who's going to get all the attention and pound the rock, Dameon Pierce. That is my guy. I think
Houston Texans.
I think he's got a chance to really ball out, especially them wanting to be a running team. I mean, they don't got too much firepower in the pass game. I do like Davis Mills a little bit, but what I've seen in the preseason so far in training camp, Dameon Pierce is lighting it up. I mean, I haven't seen. He's by far the best rookie running back so far.
Kenneth Walker hasn't really played, and Reese Hall is,
That's a iffy situation, sharing time with Michael Carter.
Yeah, it's tough. Michael Carter's a fairly high draft pick not too long ago, so.
And, you think about it, in his whole college career, I don't remember the stats off the top of my head, but he was very underutilized in Florida's system with Dan Mullen. He's very fresh still. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been used too much. So he's fresh. He's ready to go. He's ready to take on a full workload. And I just think that benefits him. When you can get most of the touches each game, you have a chance to obviously break out and be Offensive Rookie of the Year. So that's why I'm going that route and keeping it with the Gators, baby.
Well, as you stick with your homer pick, I'm actually going to break my own heart a little bit here and go George Pickens. Regardless of the quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, or Kenny Pickett, who probably will end up getting the job at some point. I think George Pickens has showed enough. To me, he was one of my sleepers in the drafts. He's done well in this preseason. I mean, he's a do-it-all kind of receiver. Yeah. I like the attitude. Go up, catch the ball, make a block if you have to. Man, they have a lot of good, well-rounded players on this Pittsburgh team.
Yeah, they do.
Like we mentioned before, Kenny Pickett or Trubisky can just be average. This is a team that can go fairly far. Yeah,
and that was going to be the other guy I said too, was George Pickens. I think he's the most, especially when you think of name recognition wise, I think you would obviously say George Pickens over Dameon Pierce. But I was trying to be a little bit different just because I think when you look at a lot of guys' predictions, it's probably going to be George Pickens. I mean, you could say Romeo Doubs too, the way he's played this preseason, but I feel like it's always going to be a receiver. I want to go running back, you know? Like, I want to go right. Receiver is kind of more easy to get that award.
I feel it's going to be quarterback more times than not, but this year there wasn't really a quarterback.
Well, if you do have a quarterback class that is, you know, very good. This year's quarterback class wasn't. Just it is what it is. But, yeah, that's, you know, you got Dameon Pierce, my pick. You got George Pickens. I think those are two solid picks, obviously. Who knows? You could always have other guys break out this year that weren't either drafted or drafted very late.
Sure.
Like, that's the crazy part about predicting these things is we always got guys each year that come out of nowhere, and you go back to your notes and look up where did this guy get drafted, or he went undrafted. Damn, like it's fun to see like these. I mean, it's fun to see guys break out like that because what you were coming out of college, not being talked about, but then you get to the NFL and you're just like a whole new player. It's crazy. I think that's a testament to obviously your work ethic, but also the coaching ability.
Yeah. Do you have a prediction for Defensive Rookie of the Year? A player that I was thinking of while you were making a spiel is Rodrigo, because that's a guy I never heard of, but we watch him on Hard
Yeah, he looks like he's starting.
He's not. Sounds like he's going to be starting linebacker for the Detroit Lions. Now, that's not my pick.
No, I wasn't going to pick him, but he is a guy like that I talk about. Like, towards the end of the year, you're like, damn, this guy has great stats. Like,
85 tackles, who the fuck is it?
Yeah,
Whatever.
And he becomes a stalwart in that defense. But for me, I'm going between two guys. I think I got to lean with Aiden Hutchinson. My other guy is Sauce Gardner. I think from what I've seen on Hard Knocks preseason games, like, the dude's a Terminator. Like, I keep saying that word, but he's a beast. Like, he just looks like he has a motor that just doesn't stop either. And he's talking smack to the offensive lineman each play. Like, he's going to put up numbers this year that even I probably wasn't expecting. I think he's going to be a key reason why those Lions are in the games that they're in.
Yeah.
So
I think that Lions' offensive line is really, really good, and to go against them in practice every day is also going to be very beneficial as opposed to my pick. Since you took Aiden, Sauce Gardner, I mean, Aiden's just going to have more opportunities being that close to the quarterback. I can't do anything if they don't throw it over here, and he didn't get thrown to once this offseason. I did tell you the other day, I think his first pass over there is going to be a pick. Lamar, prove me wrong, please.
Oh, and that's the thing with Sauce is why I'm not leaning that way is because I have more confidence in Aiden having more sacks than he does picks. And I think
he'll have more sacks than he has pass deflections probably.
And I think the one thing is if Sauce were to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, he has probably double-digit picks.
No, I don't think that would be the case unless Aiden Hutchinson goes for 14 sacks. I think he get away with 5 picks, 32 pass breakups, 70 tackles.
Yeah, but
Aiden Hutchinson's just gonna have so many opportunities, especially in a passing league, and then for him not to be able to be blocked, it seems like it's gonna be pretty tough to keep him away from the quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. I think isn't he going up in practice against Penei Sewell? Yeah. So
it doesn't get better than that.
It's, you know, that's really the definition of iron sharpening iron. Like
it is.
So, I mean, yeah, it's
not mad at that pick.
No, and I think, you know, if you get more out of Goff this year than what we're used to seeing, hey, and then you get Jameson Williams back towards, you know, halfway point. It's a scary team, man.
DJ, Amon-Ra, Hawkinson, Swift, Jamal Williams. You have a lot of weapons. Good old line. So one of those teams again where quarterback is going to be the question.
Yeah,
I like those weapons just as good as anybody's outside the elite teams.
Yeah.
So your Defensive Rookie of the Year is Aiden Hutchinson. Who's your overall Rookie of the Year?
This one's tougher, man. I almost want to go back to Pickens on this one, and this is just because of the team he's on. When you're on a better team and you're making plays, I think he's obviously going to overtake Claypool as number 2 at some point.
He already did. They moved Claypool to the slot.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay, so
do your TikToks there, buddy.
So I think, yeah, he's I mean, yeah, with Pickens, he's gonna have a lot of targets this year. He's gonna The only thing that is I'm hesitant about is, Pat Fryermuth. I think he's kind of underlooked in that offense too. They have a lot of playmakers who can catch the ball.
Yeah, for sure.
So if he puts up, if he can get over 1,000 yards, 5-6 touchdowns, I do think that he's going to be the overall rookie who made a statement. Because you look at it that way, with those stats, that's arguably going to be your number one receiver next year. So, and if Kenny Pickett plays, you got a good duo for a long time.
You sure do. I'll keep mine short. I'll just go Aiden Hutchinson. Pretty much said it all last segment. I mean, he'll have the most opportunity. He'll be right there, unstoppable, and probably require double team most of the time, coming off the edge.
Yeah.
Maybe in the middle too. I think that's the safest pick. Now, he was the second pick in the draft. How do you feel Trey Walker, the first overall pick in the draft, is going to do this year?
I think it's going to kind of be...
Same position.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of a... You're going to look back on it and think it's a head-scratcher of a pick. But I do have confidence that he turns it out to be a very good player. I just think what I've seen with Aiden Hutchinson so far and what I've seen with Trey Walker, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. I don't know what went into that thought process of, I'm sure it was more so of being a developmental guy that they think they can unleash. But that's why sometimes I hate the draft, because there's always boneheaded picks.
Why just look at that? Why do we think we can bring this guy in here and develop him when we haven't been able to do that with anybody else?
Right.
Miles Jack was supposed to be the next big thing. I mean, luckily Calais Campbell's here forever, but we didn't do anything with his development. He's just a monster anywhere he goes. I mean, we haven't done it with anybody, so I don't know. Marcel Darius, Alabama, All-American, go there. We don't even remember his name anymore. So that's just a lot of these coaches lack self-awareness, and I think they think too much of themselves sometimes.
I agree.
And part of that's on the player too. If you're not giving it all out to get to the league, why are you going to give me more effort once I give you $35 million?
Right, yeah.
So I think part of it is that too. Where Aiden Hutchinson, you give him $35 million, you give him 35 cents, he's going to play the same way.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner as well. So that's why I think those guys are safe picks. George Pickens as well. So those are definitely safe picks for Rookie of the Year. Let's get to the big boys now. Offensive Player of the Year.
Justin Jefferson.
Yep, I knew it. I got the same guy. Go ahead. Give him a spiel.
I just think with the whole new scheme, more heavy on the passing attack, Kevin O'Connell calling the plays, Kirk Cousins obviously throwing the ball, who's very accurate. JJ's just got to stay healthy, and he's going to, still be a record setter, or a record breaker, which one you want to say. I think, I'm not going to say he's going to win the Triple Crown or anything, but I do think he has a chance to be just as good, if not better, as Kupp's numbers last year. And you're going to see defenses keying on him so much, and he's still going to be beating them over the top.
Yep. He's going to get a touchdown game, in my opinion. I got him 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns.
Yeah. I would expect him to be around there. And you score 18 touchdowns in the NFL, dude. Think about it. Moss scored about 23 in 07.
Well, Thielen is a guy where you probably know this, but a lot of fans aren't aware of how often he gets in the end zone, honestly.
It's been more than Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it's been more than Diggs or anybody yet, honestly. So I think if Justin can take that leap and Thielen comes back healthy, and then KJ Osborne is one of the best threes in the league, it seems to be. So
yeah,
that'll be quite the attack.
There's not much of an. I don't think for anyone out there's much of an argument you need to make to pick Justin Jefferson as Offensive Player of the Year. I just think everyone's expecting him to take that big leap and solidify himself as possibly the number one receiver in the game.
And we've talked about those expectations and how players and coaches react to them. He's a guy that I don't have any fear about. I think he's going to handle that just fine, go out there and perform. He's not a diva receiver, so I think even if he does underperform a little bit, I think that just means the team is having more team success because I don't really see too many struggles for this Minnesota team as it sits right now with all the new changes and players and faces and everything like that. So, JJ, my offensive player of the year. My defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, defensive end out of Cleveland. He's a big man, nasty man, mean man. Him and TJ Watt are probably right there as far as edge defenders in the league at 1 and 2. You gotta say you give the inside player to Aaron Donald. Maybe you want to put Khalil Mack in there. Maybe he's lost a step, but he's still right there in that conversation as well. But Myles Garrett, I think he's gonna wreak havoc this year and wreck a lot of offenses.
I picked him too, but I'll say TJ Watt. Let's just say I say TJ
Back
Watt.
to back is tough.
I mean, it is tough, but he's a guy capable of doing it. Like he's a human wrecking ball out there. Like offenses do not want to see him out there. Like, and I know you could say that obviously about Myles Garrett and Donald, but TJ Watt is just that dude is so fun to watch, and to be on a team like the Steelers, they're usually always having one of the top defenses. So we're gonna see, if that can continue. Mike Tomlin always gets them ready to play. He's a very good, coach in making adjustments. I'm gonna pick TJ Watt to go back to back. Like you got your kind of like top 3 guys that you're gonna choose from: Donald, Garrett, TJ Watt. Like
I'll pick a sleeper, kind of to piggyback off your argument. Pittsburgh has that culture out there, has a good defense over the past however many years. An argument I've given you about the Vikings and their defense, same thing with the Chargers, elite player at each level. I like the Colts, Buckner, Leonard, Moore, and then if Gilmore can be 80% of the defensive player of the year, you have 2 elite players in the backfield. I like Leonard here. The schedule isn't that tough. The conference isn't that tough. I don't believe in any of those quarterbacks out there he's going to be facing this year. If he can go out there and give me 140 tackles, 4 picks, 8 sacks or something.
I like him a lot.
I think Leonard can be a sleeper pick for.
He just got to stay healthy.
That's his big issue. He's not too heavy. He's probably about 230 or so. So maybe even less than that. So staying healthy for him is an issue, is a concern. But something I was looking at doing fantasy drafts is quarterbacks these guys will be playing when picking my defense and how much that's going to affect points scored against them and shit like that. So all those awards we got in the books. Finish it off with the big boys. Who you got for MVP?
I'm going to just keep it simple. Josh Allen.
J.A.
Like, I just think that he's going to have a remarkable year. He's a beast out there. They're, like you said, probably the most complete team. All he's got to do is stay healthy, get the ball to his playmakers, run a little bit if he has to. But when you're a big body, big arm guy, and you can put the stats up that you've been putting up, all you got to do is go get to the Super Bowl, hopefully win it. But, I mean, I think that the way their schedule plays out, that he's going to be putting up massive, massive numbers. Like, in my eyes, I had him as, I believe, my number 1 quarterback. So I'm expecting big things from him. I expect, those couple receivers besides Diggs to step up, be even better. Hey, like, it's all there to solidify yourself and also tell your peers, I am not the 13th ranked guy in the NFL. I am, at least top 5. So,
you know what? You can touch on that for a second because I cut you off last time you brought it up. But go ahead and touch on that if you want to.
Like, I just think, obviously, I don't think these guys are holding weight to like, oh, my peers think I'm this bad or I'm only this good. Like, I don't think there's too much, like, it's just more of a respect thing. As long as you make the top 100, I think it's, you're being shown respect. But for Josh Allen to be ranked 13th, man, that's...
Too many quarterbacks were ahead of him.
Who was? I think you got
Rodgers,
Brady.
Mahomes was too, or no?
I'd have to look at it. I forget the list. But I know, because all I remember was you had 3 Rams in the top 10. But I remember Josh Allen being 13th. That's sticking with me, and I was just like, man, he battles the best. I mean, he's shown he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He battles each elite quarterback just as well as they battle him. Like, that Kansas City game sticks in my head. Like, I seriously thought he was bound and determined to bring them to the Super Bowl last year. Like, they had that type of team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, Mahomes just showed he was a little bit better that game and leading the squad. But nah, this year, I think it's Josh Allen's time. It's hard to beat a quarterback for MVP, obviously.
It's extremely difficult. If Cup gonna do it last year,
I mean, I get it. It's, you got.
Did he do it last year?
Did he win it last year?
I don't remember.
I don't remember last year either.
It was Rodgers.
It was Rodgers, yep. What's that? 2 or 3 in a row now?
That's 2, I think.
2 back to back, yeah.
4 total.
Yeah, I don't see Rodgers doing it again this year.
It's the touchdown to interception ratio, God, 4-1. It's amazing. He has a chance.
Rodgers?
Yeah.
Oh, of course he did. He always has a chance every year.
Back
He's
to
Rodgers.
my average quarterback theory, they have limited weapons, which is a little different, but a great O-line, good running backs, good defense, top 5 defense. So usually when that's the case, you have an average quarterback, you do fairly well. This time you have an all-time great quarterback. So
yeah.
That'll give me enough confidence to say they could be in every game this year, no matter who they play.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, their team, like, I hate him with passion, but it's just like, until he's gone, it's hard to overlook him. Like, you can't count him out. Like, And I know so many people out there that aren't Packers fans want to count him out because, you get sick of hearing, you get sick of hearing about Rodgers. Like, we get it. We get it. If it's not Brady playing, like, you're probably the GOAT. Like,
I put Peyton there.
Well, yeah, like, I'm a big Peyton fan, obviously. I was always Team Peyton back when he was battling Brady. But I think I remember this training camp this year, you got Rodgers talking about his receivers dropping the ball. You're not going to be in there if you're dropping the pass, I think that's kind of him just blowing smoke. Like, you watched a couple preseason games, Romeo Doubs was flashing out there. Like, he's got the stuff. That's the type of guy that you just stick in with Rodgers, he's going to make you a superstar.
Was a question presented, or did he just give that information on his own?
No, I don't remember. I just remember flipping on NFL Network and he was there talking about it in the locker room. He was just, and I think they said he was referring to Romeo Doubs because he had a lot of drop issues in practice.
And that was only Ricky.
But I'm saying, like,
whatever.
Jamar Chase, we were talking about that last year with him having drop issues. Look what he did last year in the season. Like,
Rookie of the year.
Like, it's...
Over Mac Jones.
You got to take that training camp stuff and preseason stuff with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as rookies, like, you're going to have hiccups. But once you get that, first couple weeks of the regular season out the way, it's usually smooth sailing if you're ready to get in the lineup and play. So I don't know. I do think with Devontae being gone, you're gonna have Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon catching probably 50 passes or more each.
Yeah.
So he is definitely a guy to watch out again for another MVP.
3-peat is a stretch, but he has the capabilities. I'm going to go ahead and go with Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, you went with McDermott. We could have figured Josh Allen would have been your pick. I had Andy Reid for coach, so Mahomes obviously is going to be the guy here. I think we're going to get back on track for 5K somehow, some way. We have the best O-line in the league, if not the second, at worst the third. The running game is an issue, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I need to run the. I mean, you guys don't say that about Josh Allen. Why
are we gonna
is that
see?
A concern for me?
Are we gonna see Kelsey take a little bit of a dip this year? Is he still gonna be the?
This is probably Kelsey's last elite year as a top 2 tight end as far as production. However, I don't know how this new system's gonna look fully. We see a little bit of the preseason, but we talked last week. teams don't really show their full hand in the preseason. So, but he's definitely a guy who's going to be utilized a lot of ways, can be utilized a lot of ways. He's very versatile, and Andy Reid is obviously a great offensive mind. Patrick Mahomes is a magician. Throw it left-handed, right-handed, no look, sidearm, side angles, knee on the ground damn near, in a sack. So, I mean, he'll get you the ball, man. Just keep working to get open. Him and Kelsey have a rapport that's unlike any rapport in the league, in my opinion.
Watch out for Sky Moore, too.
Sky Moore, I mean, there's obviously no replacing that speed. Sky Moore does have decent speed. Miko Hardman obviously does have better speed than Sky Moore does. But we'll change up the offense a little bit. Juju Smith does have 2 of the longest touchdowns over the past few years, about 98 yards, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he obviously has some speed there.
Yeah,
no,
for sure.
No slow guys doing that. So, Sammy Watkins also, they brought him over. So, we have weapons out there in KC, and I think, no, they're not Tyreek Hill, they're not top 10 receivers, but we do have the best tight end and the best quarterback. So, we can do just enough and more than enough with that combination. Now, the floor is yours.
We doing the Vikings selling point now here?
On the Vikings, and we'll get out of here, man.
All right, well, I think this is obviously, look at the schedule, it's probably one of the more easier schedules we've had in the past few years. We do have teams like the Packers and Buffalo Bills on it, which is obviously tough. But say you split with the Packers and you somehow pull off that Bills win. Like, I'm saying somehow, some way, you anything happens in the NFL on any given Sunday, like, if you win a game like that, it shows you're the real deal.
Oh, for sure.
And you're ready to play. So I think, I never picked them to beat them. I have them as a loss on the schedule, but, they don't put it past them. I mean, I think we do play them at home, so take it for what it is. But over the last 7 seasons, Kirk Cousins averaging 4,200 passing yards, around 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a passer rating of 101. So I'll take those numbers every day from my quarterback leading my team. Obviously, you got a top running back duo in Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, which I'll take that every day as well. I think the biggest thing is, we've had poor O-line play for quite a while, but I think that this year it starts to kind of solidify itself. Yes, Bradbury's a question mark, but you got a rookie in editing room who won the right guard position, which is saying something, obviously. Hopefully he plays up to his potential. But you got a stalwart at tackles in Darisaw and Brian O'Neill. 2 great tackles. I think Darisaw takes another step to solidify himself as a elite left tackle this year. Left guard, you got Ezra Cleveland, who's, probably been our second best O-lineman besides Brian O'Neill. So I think we finally get it right this year. Maybe we go in a different direction at center next year, but I think all you got to do this year is be a little above average and give Kirk enough time. I think we do that. Defensive side of I'm not done with the offense because you got arguably one of the top 5 receiving trios in the league in Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and KJ Osborne. I think KJ's going to surprise people this year. He kind of showed glimpses last year, but I think he's going to take the next step, be electric in this offense. You got Irv Smith on the tight end. I mean, we got a load of playmakers on that side of the ball. I can keep going down the line, but we're loaded. You just got to stay healthy. We're going to score points. We've shown that. I think some people are a little worried about Adam Thielen's age, but from what we've been hearing in the local media is he hasn't been showing that in training camp. So I'm not worried there. But it all comes down to defense, and I do think we brought enough pieces in for that defense to be maybe top 15, back end of that. But you got a pass rushing duo in Zadarius Smith and Daniil Hunter. If they stay healthy, that's one of the deadliest combos in the league. Mm-hmm. Jordan Hicks and Eric Kendricks in the middle. I think Kendricks is one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. Jordan Hicks, great tackler. Up front, Dalvin Tomlinson and Harrison Smith, not great depth behind them, but you got to stay healthy and you can push people around up front, stop the run game. I mean, you got question marks with like guys like I think we traded for Justin Blacklock, which I don't know much about him. So can he start? We cut Armon Watts, who went to the Bears. Patrick Peterson, great outside coverage corner. I'm interested to see if Lewis Seen can break in and beat Cameron Bynum for that starting safety spot next to Harrison Smith. But if Andrew Booth is healthy, which he's been struggling with his injuries, I don't know what he got dinged up with in the preseason game, but hopefully he's back and can crack the starting lineup, because I think you draft him in the second round. I mean, you expect him to play. So Cameron Dancer, he just needs to take another step this year, because he's kind of shown past couple years he hasn't been that great at coverage, but obviously he blew that Detroit game last year. So if he can hone in on his coverage skills, I think that he's got the size to be a top corner. Not going to say elite corner in the league, but definitely a solid one. But I just think all the pieces are there. And you bring Kevin O'Connell to lead the team. It's a different vibe. You got your playmakers happy, passing the ball more. I mean, Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to be more fresh this year than he has been in a long time. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be more utilized in the pass game, which is going to benefit him. But when need be, he's going to run the rock and be effective with it. I just think there's a possibility that you're able to utilize your backups more to keep him fresh, because we do have a deep running back room, especially with Kane and Wangu, and then Ty Chandler. But man, on paper, you're looking at a team who can definitely. I mean, you can definitely sweep the Packers and solidify your NFC North crown that way, as long as you take care of business against the Lions and Bears. You should arguably sweep the division this year. That should be the number one goal, because that gets you that crown, and then taking care of business against, we don't play the NFC East, we play the AFC East. I think we play the
Bills, Dolphins, Jets.
Yep. So and I'm not scared really of anyone besides the Bills. No one's making me shake besides the Bills in that division. The NFC side, I think, who was it? The out of division games we play, NFC West. No.
You play the Tampa. Or you play the Rams.
No, we don't play either of those teams. I just was looking at the schedule, but...
Oh, you play the Cowboys now, because you play Eagles week 2.
That's right. East. NFC East and AFC East. Yeah. That's what it was. And, not worried about that.
Please. Please.
So that's what I'm saying.
Give me AFC South, and that's golden.
It's East, so number one goal, you sweep the division. You still take care of business on a week. I think, what did I have us going? 12 and 5.
We both had 12 and 5, I believe.
So I just think it's a whole new vibe coming into this season. I think it's the energy is there. I think this is the first time since probably, I can't even say since 2017, because I was nervous about that year. You look at, we had supposedly Bradford as a starting quarterback, and then you go to Keenum, and then you're all of a sudden you're 13-3 somehow. So I didn't expect that. This year, I think that I had the expectations there of, we can do this and take care of business and potentially get to that NFC Championship if everything falls into the right places. So, people are always going to hate on the Vikings because we don't get it done. It's always going to be there until we do. So that's why I say, let them sleep on us. Please sleep on us. Take us lightly, because preseason games don't mean shit. We can go 0-3. The Rams went 0-3 last year. Look at what they did. I'm not worried about it.
Where the staff comes from.
Hey, we might have some depth concerns at certain positions, but I think the players are going to want to play for this head coach. They're going to want to play for the defensive coordinator and Ed Donatel. We're sick of being that average team that shits the bed. And I think this is the year that you're going to see a different Kirk Cousins. Like I said, those last 7 years, like, that's hard to be that consistent in the NFL. And he is Mr. Consistent. He's accurate. Granted, he, has times at the end of the game where he chokes it away. He hasn't been a primetime guy to go out there and shine for whatever reason, but I just think this year he's in the right system, right coach coaching him. He's able to take control of the offense more, have more say in the kind of play calls he wants. It's there's not much else I can say. Like, you either believe in us or you're still skeptical, and I think, like, hey, go ahead and be skeptical, but you'll see. I think you'll see this year.
Yeah, just like you, there's questions with every team out the NFC. We touched on Tampa Bay earlier with their age and attrition. I mean, Dallas is obviously probably out of the question, but one of my picks, Philly, we obviously have quarterback questions there. You look over at the Packers, no Devontae Adams. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers does what he does, LaFleur does what he does, but losing that weapon is a big weapon. Shambles in San Francisco. I don't know how that's going to go about in the locker room, bringing Jimmy back for 1 year. It's definitely going to affect Trey Lance's confidence. I don't know if they're going to go with him all year, if they're going to start Jimmy at some point, but that's a lot of questions out there in the locker room at the most important position. Rams, we talked about Matt Stafford's elbow. Outside of the coaching change, you guys are really the only team that doesn't have a lot of questions. But coaching is really, really important.
It is.
Underestimated in a lot of people's eyes. So
it is, and I think the biggest thing is, like I've been saying, just is defense. You know we're going to go out there and put up points. Like, you know it. Like, we've shown it. We're a high-powered offense. Like, we're going to go out there and score points. You're going to have to stop us somehow. But then our defense has to show up every week and stay healthy. And that's the thing with this week one, I think, that I'm excited about, is because we're going to play a very good defense. So our offense right off the bat has to go out there and score points. But then you got a different type of Green Bay team with no Devontae. You got playmakers in the backfield. I don't know what to expect from the receivers or how they're going to rotate them or whatever. Like, who's going to be their number one guy? You got Randall Cobb to lean on, I guess.
I'm not scared of him.
No, I'm not either. I don't know what they expect. I mean, I heard rumors in training camp that it wasn't a given that Sammy Watkins made the team, which I think he did.
Oh, he's in Green Bay?
Mm-hmm.
I had him in Chiefs, earlier.
So I wonder what he's going to look like out there. Romeo Doubs, are we going to be concerned about the drops? Probably not, I'm guessing. So it's just, and then, I mean, Robert Tonyan at tight end, I'm not really nervous about him, but it's just, you're going to see, obviously, Zadarius Smith ready to go, wanting to sack Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to be a plus. We're going to be, we're going to be juiced up. I think every team this year, every team every year is juiced up that first week. And that's why I think you see a lot of boneheaded plays coming, because you're too juiced up and you're making mistakes. And you got to let the nerves chill a little bit. But, hey, I couldn't have asked for a better week one start, because you're going to really see, if we come out of this with a win, it sets us up very well going forward. If we lose, well, now we're already having to claw our way back to try to get to above Green Bay, number one. And you don't want to start in a hole. That's against any division, any rivalry game. Like, you don't want to lose. Each team doesn't want to lose. You can't afford to lose. I mean, NFL's a long season, but it's also short in a sense, which, if you don't start off strong, you're not looking pretty. So
yeah. You said that first game is going to fare well if you end up with a W, but do you think you'll learn a lot about your team from that first game? Because last year Packers did lose 38-3 to the Saints and ended up with the best record.
Well, yeah, and you got scenarios like that, obviously, but I think the biggest thing I want to look for is how explosive our offense is under this new coach, and is our defense what kind of defense are we looking at here? Are we gonna be, bend but don't break? Are we gonna be, we're flying around and stopping them every chance we get? Or are we giving up big plays? Like, I think you got to limit the big plays against teams, especially against Green Bay. Like with Aaron Rodgers, who can do a little bit of backyard football, off script stuff, Hail Marys. Like, you got to go out there. I think the biggest thing is going to be that front seven against Aaron Rodgers getting in his face. Like, if we can pressure him,
that's the key.
We're going to be in a good spot. And that's what I'm looking forward to is, can we stop the run and can we pressure the quarterback? Because I think if we can do those two things, it's going to take less pressure or take more pressure off of our defensive backs. And they'll be able to play a little bit more relaxed. Mm-hmm. Hopefully not too relaxed, but more relaxed and not so uptight, blowing coverages. It's been a tendency with guys like Cameron Dantzler and I don't think who Harrison Hand. I think he went to New York Giants, but Chris Boyd, just guys who we have that are can be solid playmakers, but they're not consistent. And that's the biggest thing with our defensive back room is I think you got a good leader in Patrick Peterson on the back end of his career now, and I don't think he's a guy anymore who can travel with the number one receivers. So in games like that where they do have a guy like Diggs, it's going to be interesting to see how we can stop those kind of offenses. Mm-hmm. So, but I think this week you're going to try to probably learn a little bit more about the defense and the offense because we kind of know what to expect with the offense.
Predictions for JJ that game that we can get out of here?
Oh, man.
Offensive player of the year, you got to expect big numbers week 1.
Week 1. Well, you got to expect probably Alexander shadowing him.
Jair's not an easy matchup.
So, I'm going to go... God, I don't even know how to predict this because last year I think he put up 175 and 2 touchdowns or something like that.
I was going to say 130 and 2, but he did 175, so 130, I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'd say maybe even, 120 to 140 in yards and...
Give him 1 tough.
At least 1 touchdown.
Big yards, 1 tough.
Question is how many receptions you giving him because he's going to be, breaking a few big plays, or is he going to be getting all targets?
Because if you're talking about 12 catches, he's probably going to have more than 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
So, it is hard to predict. I'll give you that.
But I think, and that's what I'm excited about, especially with having Irv Smith healthy, if he's ready to go week 1, which I think he will be, but we missed him all last year. He's a whole new dimension to the offense because he's arguably another receiver just playing tight end. He's a bigger body, obviously, but he's very good at getting open. He can run with the ball in his hands. It's just, and then you got a guy like KJ Osborne who's on the rise. You got Adam Thielen, which you know what to expect from him. As good as your defense is, Green Bay, how are you going to stop all these guys? If we keep Kirk upright, how are you going to stop all of our guys?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a question for a lot of teams going forward.
It really is.
Like I told you before, last season, I watched you guys script a drive, 7 plays, touchdown. Nobody looked like they could stop you, but somehow you end up the game with 17 points, and I don't know what went wrong in between.
Yeah,
the first 5 minutes and the other 55.
It was one of the most frustrating years to watch for sure, because it was like clockwork. That first drive we have, we're probably going down and scoring, and then from there, we were disappearing. Which that shouldn't have happened even without Irv. And Conklin's he's not a slouch at tight end, right? But he's not Irv Smith. But he still had KJ, he still had Adam, he still had JJ, and I think it was just the Zimmer effect of being stuck in our ways of wanting to try to run the ball. Number 1, I don't think our offensive line is built to play bully ball. And number 2, you can't beat up Dalvin Cook like that. He's not built for that. Mm-hmm. And number 3, don't neglect your star playmakers on the outside. We're burning people down the field with them.
A big change will be head coaches being aware of records their receivers about to break and probably going to go ahead and let those receivers break those records instead of being a bitch in the press conference asking, saying, why don't you go ask him? Whatever he said. I mean, that's nonsense, dude.
Yeah, I know.
But that's it. Episode 6 of Griddyiron Gang is a wrap. Go check out episodes 1 through 5 on YouTube. We'll put up another episode before the start of the regular season, previewing all the weekend games, Sunday, Monday.
Recap Sunday.
Yeah.
Breakdown Monday. I think the second pod next week will break down Monday and preview Thursday again. And that'll kind of be how we rotate our episodes, is kind of you expect the first episode of the week to be a recap of Sunday. And then we're going to preview or recap Monday and then preview Thursday and Sunday, the second episode of the week. So be sure to tune in and, hit that like and subscribe button. We need all the views we can get. Turn this thing up and let's have a fun season.
Yes, indeed. And while you're hitting that like and subscribe, make sure to share with your friends and family. And also make sure to comment your war predictions in the comments. We're definitely interested to see if you guys are thinking the same way we are. But until next time, I appreciate it. We appreciate y'all.
Let's do it.